All right, welcome to Mostly Mets, and today we're going to talk about a huge weekend coming up in New York sports. First off, the Knicks are trying to close out the Celtics in Game 6 at MSG, but that's not really what we're going to be talking about today. What we're going to be talking about is the Mets and Yankees opening their season series in the Bronx this weekend, this Friday night. And it's going to be the first time in many years for me that the Subway Series really has any juice. I was kind of sick of the concept. It seemed kind of old and stale, and nobody really cared about it anymore. It went to 4 games instead of 6, and it just didn't feel like a big deal anymore. And now I think it's gotten better because the Mets got Juan Soto, and he left the Yankees to go to the Mets. And Mets fans we're very happy about it. It's kind of a win for us. We never thought we would take a player from the Yankees or even get a player of that caliber to come to the Mets. So obviously we're excited about it, and the Yankees are very upset about it. The Yankee fans are still kind of having that left lover kind of thing, and it's been a struggle for them, honestly. If you're on social media, you can't say that it hasn't been. There's obviously a lot of back and forth between Mets and Yankees fans on Twitter, X, whatever, and it's been entertaining for me because honestly, I don't really care that much about the Yankees. They're not really on my radar. I don't really watch much of them unless they're playing the Mets, or if the Mets have an off day and they're on TV, I might turn them on for a little bit. So they're not really on my radar, to be honest with you. I'd much rather see them play more games against the Braves or the Phillies because it's in the division and those games actually matter more than just like a rivalry in city. But with Juan Soto coming to the Mets, it does elevate the rivalry, and it does make these games more fun and enjoyable and really mean a little bit more. Not as much to us. I don't think the Mets fans really care still, but I think the Yankee fans want to see the Mets lose with Soto. They want to see Soto lose. And that's what they're all about right now. And all you've been hearing on the radio or social media is how much Soto's going to get booed. We all knew that was going to happen, right? As soon as he signed with the Mets, the first thing people did was go and look at when they play the Yankees and see, when he's going to be in the Bronx, and started talking about booing him, and now he's a villain and he's the enemy and blah, 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 blah. Who cares, right? I personally hope they boo Soto mercilessly. Not because I dislike Soto or not because I want Soto to get upset, but because I think it will elevate his game. We've all seen Soto in the playoffs. We've all seen him in big moments, and it elevates his game. When the lights are brightest, Juan Soto performs. And I think that him being booed at his former, stadium, albeit for a very short time, only 1 year, when he goes in the Hall of Fame, it'll be with a Mets hat, not a Yankee hat. But it doesn't affect him in the way that I think Yankee fans think that it will. I think it'll have the opposite effect. It will really make him perform better. It will elevate his game. And I'm excited to see that. We haven't seen, let's face it, Mets fans, Juan Soto hasn't been what we thought he was going to be so far this year. Now, that doesn't mean I'm worried about him. That doesn't mean I think that it was a mistake to sign him or anything like that. So don't get that wrong. But he's been good. He's been okay. But he hasn't had that signature moment. He hasn't had that big home run to tie a game late in the game or take the lead late in the game. He just hasn't had that in a big spot. And I think going into Yankee Stadium, where he's going to be booed, and the right field creatures out there, or the bleacher creatures, they're going to be yelling at him. They're going to be talking to him. Whatever. I hope they do, because it's going to push him to be better. And I don't think the Yankee fans really get that. I think, Yankee fans boo their own players, and Met fans do too, and it helps them perform better. Well, it's going to have the same effect for Soto, because he wants to go out there and show you. He wants to go out there and show you what he can do. Go ahead and boo him. I think he'll be better. I'm happy about that. I hope they boo him mercilessly, because I think he'll make them pay, and I expect a big series out of Soto. But really, if you're a Mets fan, my advice to you would be don't pay so much attention to social media this coming weekend, because we're in a no-win situation. The Mets are currently in a no-win situation. And that's because if the Mets win this series, or let's say they sweep this series, let's say like last year, they sweep the series. Well, all you're going to hear from Yankee fans is, you're still little brother. We still have 27 championships. You know, who cares? It's a regular season, right? That's what you're going to hear. This is your World Series. That's what you're going to hear. So you can't win even if you win. And then if you lose, God forbid you lose, you're going to hear all that money. You pay all that money to Soto just to lose. Soto wasn't worth it. We're glad he left. Little brother, you know. So my advice would be, stay off social media. Just enjoy the games. Let the Neanderthal Yankee fans say what they want. I just have to say, a good amount, and not all, there's very good Yankee fans. There's a ton of really good, knowledgeable Yankee fans. But a very good portion of Yankee fans aren't really fans. They don't really watch the games. They might see a highlight or a score, or they start watching in the playoffs. They're not passionate. They're not real fans like most Met fans are. You know, Met fans most of the time watch the game every day. We care about the regular season. We care about our players. We care about how they're doing. And we can talk on that. We can speak on that. Yankees, they're not the same. Some are. I'm not saying all. Most, a good portion of them are just not knowledgeable fans. And that's the truth. They're casuals. Met fans don't really have casuals. We have diehards. They have a lot of casuals. So you're going to see the casuals and hear from the casuals. It doesn't matter. Stay off social media. Enjoy the games. And just, I think the Mets are the better team, so overall we should win this series. So the Yankees, I'm not taking anything away from them. They've been a very good team this year. Offensively, they lead the whole major leagues in home runs, OPS. They're a really good offensive team, led by, obviously, Aaron Judge, who's having an unbelievable start to his season. He's still batting over 400. I think he's got 15 home runs, 40-something RBIs. He's been really good to start the year, and really he's their star, right? But then you also have Grisham, who's way overperforming this year. He has 12 home runs. You see all the comparisons, Grisham, Soto, Grisham, Soto. Grisham will be Grisham by the end of the year. I have no doubt about that. He's a guy who plays great defense. He has some power, but he's going to end up hitting 180 or 190. He's just not a very good player. And the stats will even out over time. Just like you're not supposed to get too excited about these early season successes. Just like you shouldn't get upset about the early season, down years. So really, they're led by those two guys in terms of home runs and power. Goldschmidt's had a really good year. He's hitting 345. Not a ton of power, but he's been really good. Bellinger's been a little bit of a misstep there. I don't think he's been as good as even I thought he was going to be with the Yankees. But overall, the Yankees are a really good offensive team, and they have Max Fried, who might be the best pitcher in baseball right now. This early in the season, I think he has been the best pitcher in baseball so far. You also have Rodon, who's been a little up and down, but more up this year than down. He's been really good for them. The Mets will face him and Fried in this series. So overall, the Yankees have been very good. And that's really the last thing I'm going to really talk about with the Yankees. But I do respect the Yankees. I don't fear them, but I do respect them, and I think they're a really good team. So the Mets in their last 3 series have won all 3. I talked about a couple weeks ago how the Mets were basically in this really tough stretch for the next few weeks. It started with the Diamondbacks, which they took 2 out of 3 from. Then it went to the Cubs. They took 2 out of 3. Then you got a little bit of a respite where you faced the Pirates, who were one of the worst teams in baseball, and they took 2 out of 3. I wasn't happy with the Pirates series. They were kind of lifeless at times. That's a team that you have to beat up on. And you see it so often with the Mets that they play up to their competition, right? When they play a good team, they play well. But then when they play a bad team, they kind of match their energy and they match their play style, and they always struggle against the bad teams. And it was no different against the Pirates. They only scored 6 runs in 3 games, and they were shut out in the final game. So, yes, they won the series, and you can't complain about winning 2 out of 3 against anybody. They're all major leaguers. They all make money. They all get paid to play baseball. But at the end of the day, it was not a very good series. You're starting to see Pete Alonso really dying down in his production, right? He was so hot for the first few weeks of the season. First 5 weeks, really, of the season, he was as hot as could be. A couple weeks ago, he was batting 360, 370. Now he's down to 311, and he hasn't hit a home run in a while, or maybe he hit one recently. but his power numbers have come down. His RBI numbers aren't going up as quickly as they were, and he's really just started to really not go back to the old Pete. He still is not striking out like he used to. He's still getting his walks. He's still got a high on base percentage. His slugging is still over 1,000. Like, he's been really good still. But you can start to see those numbers kind of come back to where they have been in the past. And that means other guys have to step up. And lately they really haven't been. Lindor, he's slowed down a little bit. He went through a very hot streak, and now he's still getting his base hits here and there, but he's not really taking over a game or contributing that much to games lately. And then Soto, who I thought was ready to get hot after hitting the 2 home runs against the Diamondbacks, and then he just kind of went back to what he was doing before. He's still getting some base hits, he's still getting walks, but he's never hit that hot streak this year. He's had hot moments, he's had big games, he's had, a big 2 or 3 games in a row, but he hasn't hit that 10 days, 2-week hot streak where you can't get him out. And that's what we're still waiting for. He's been fine, he's been okay, but he hasn't been what we expected. And I think right now their offense needs him in there and performing well. I think the Mets lineup can be very deep. Obviously, we've seen Beatty perform really well lately. Bunch of home runs. I think he has 5 home runs this year, 4 since coming back from the minors in a week. So Beatty's been really good. Vientos is starting to heat up with the bat. I can't take him at third base. He's been terrible lately, but he's been heating up with the bat. Acuna slowed down a little bit, so they can't just get a bunch of guys hot at once. It's like one guy starts carrying the offense and everyone else gets cold, and then once he starts to get cold, someone else starts kind of carrying the team. So overall, it's been very inconsistent, and that's a word that I've used all season long, is inconsistency. The Mets have the ability to be a very good offense, but they've been supremely inconsistent, and that's the issue. There's been nobody who's been consistent throughout. Even Pete, right? He was a constant through the first 5-6 weeks of the season, and now he's just not anymore. So until they get that figured out, until they get a little bit more consistency, they're gonna struggle. They're gonna struggle to win series, right? Or struggle to win against the better teams. Now they've done it, right? They beat the Diamondbacks 2 out of 3. They beat the Cubs 2 out of 3, and then they beat the Pirates 2 out of 3. But it didn't really feel like a series win. So that's where it comes to me, where I think they play extremely well against good teams and then poorly against bad teams. It's been a problem for a long time. I think it's a problem throughout baseball. I think it's just the players don't really necessarily get up for the bad teams or for the games that they don't really feel like matter all that much. It's a long season, but all the wins count and all the losses count. They're still up 2.5 games, and I think they'll be fine. But really, I do worry about their offensive struggle at times, or their offensive inconsistencies at times. All that being said, I still love the Mets' chances in this series because they have the more clutch players. Let's face it, Lindor is as clutch as it gets. Soto has proven in the past that he's as clutch as it gets. Even Alonso, if you look at last year's playoffs, that game in Milwaukee, he's as clutch as it gets. So when the lights get bright, I trust the Mets over the Yankees, right? Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. He's an absolute monster. But he's proven in the past that when the games really matter, or when there's bright lights, he doesn't perform as well. Now, I'm not saying he never will. He could come out this weekend and hit 3 home runs and knock in 12 for all I know. I don't know. But so far in the past, his track record has shown that he's not that guy. He's just not. So, nothing against him. He's a great player, and I'm sure he will perform in those situations in the future. But I know that the Mets have players that do. So that's why I don't worry about a series like this. This will be playoff intensity without being in the playoffs. And the Mets shown that in the playoffs, they beat teams that are better than them. And I don't think the Yankees are better than them. The Yankees aren't as good as them. But they beat teams that are better than them. And they play above their competition in the playoffs. So, yes, they ran into the Dodgers just like the Yankees did and lost. But the Dodgers were kind of on a mission last year. They were unbeatable. They weren't going to be beat. This year, the Mets are the better team. Not than the Dodgers, but than the Yankees. So, overall, I think the Mets get the win in this series. they just seem to always play the Yankees well. It seems to mean more to them than it does to the Yankees in a lot of ways. Although this year that might flip because of Soto, because of all that. It might make the Yankees want it more, and maybe it's a more competitive series and not last year like the sweep, So overall, I still like the Mets' chances in this game because they're clutch, because we're just the better clutch team, and that's just the truth. And no matter what team you're a fan of, whether it's the Mets or the Yankees, you have to admit to yourself that the Mets are the more clutch team. They just are. It's not even questionable. Whatever. So, if you're still here, you like this kind of content, please subscribe, give me a like, comment whatever you like. I'm sure if you're a Yankee fan, you might have something to say about what I've said. I don't care. That's fine. Go ahead, comment it. Mets fans, comment. Do whatever you want. And until next time, let's go Mets.